So to what extent do you think God should play a role in deciding who you marry? Do you think it should be kind of God placing the name of someone in your heart and someone in your life in your heart, or do you feel like it should be from the direction of you having a person in mind and taking that person to God?
It's a good question. I think it depends on the situation. In the book I refer to, and this was specifically to women, like, what do you feel if you feel like what do you do if you feel like God has told you, like, this person is the one? And my advice would be so for the ladies in particular, like, if you feel like God has laid someone on your heart, you feel very strongly that this is the person, I, per se, would not, me personally, go and tell that person, God said that you're my husband. Like, I...
Turn into a track star.
Whoa, I could not. I mean, I'm a lot of things, so I don't know if I can say it with my whole chest to go and tell someone, God said that you're my husband, and he's like, I'm already married. Okay, or I'm seeing someone, I'm about to propose to someone else. Oh, okay. So it's that case where, and if you've had those feelings, and I think most people probably have had at one point or another, it's, for women anyway, I think about praying very vigorously, and it's a point to, like, okay, Lord, pray, and then having also peace to let it go. Like, you prayed about it, said, Lord, if this is your will, you're going to allow it to come to pass. Don't let it haunt me. Let him know what you've told me. And it's also the same vice versa. Like, I've had this kind of thing like, oh, but God said that you're my wife. I was like, well, the same God that told you is going to tell me. Because this is a massive decision. God is fully aware of the magnitude of this decision. He's not going to speak to one person and not tell me, or speak to me and not tell you. So if the Spirit is one, he's going to confirm it. And I think we need to have a lot more trust, or I need to have a lot more trust in that. I guess the fear is because our feelings are so invested in that person in that moment, is like, what if they say no? Okay, I have to manage it, I have to control it. And if we think we have to do that to keep it, then it may not be God that's sending us. So yeah, I think it depends. Like, sometimes you may meet someone and it's literally, some of my friends are like, he just came out of nowhere, and I'm like, where is this nowhere? Let me go to nowhere and let's go bag a man. But seriously, but like, if they're friends, and it might just be, it just kind of evolved into, and then it was like a prayer, like, Lord, is this like, and he might be like, peace, like, go, I've confirmed very clear things. Other people's been also a bit more dramatic. He said that's one. I was like, no, crying. And then I heard it in a dream or whatever else. I mean, God, I don't think we can limit God in this, but I think, like, God is not going to go against his word. God is going to confirm to both parties what he wants. And at the same time, everybody has a right to choose. We choose whether we want to obey him. There may be consequences. There will be consequences to both choices, obviously, but we choose. And that's why I'm not of the advocate like there is the one, because if someone doesn't choose you, then what does that mean? You've lost yours, like, and then that's it. You're off. You're out, because that's it. Because now you can't mess up the whole flow. So that's it. You didn't choose me. So yeah, I think we definitely have a responsibility to choose. Like, God gives us this: choose life. Choose. We have life or death. The power of life and death in our tongues. Choose life. Always choose life. We have the power to choose. And so I think in our choosing, we go to him. When we think we're ready for choosing, we go to him. When we've made the choice, we go to him. We're consistently, as we are in him, he's in us, we're in him. So there's always that dialogue. We're always praying about it. So I think there's just that danger when the feelings are so invested that...
Because this is the thing. I haven't done my due diligence fully on this, but I've had a few conversations. Soul ties. Do you believe in soul ties?
I do think through sexual relations, soul ties, or even like emotional connections. I do think there can be a point where obviously we're so connected with someone that they do leave an imprint of some. And obviously Corinthians talks about, if you have sex with a prostitute, you two are becoming one. Your body's a temple. So there obviously is a union of some form. And so, but that doesn't necessarily, I mean, biblically I can't prove it, but that doesn't necessarily just have to come from sex. If someone has been so emotionally invested in you, like you've had such a deep connection, then obviously gets...
Because this is the thing, because crushes, I think what came to mind when I was having a conversation last, wherein from the research that I have done, I went through this period where I got really obsessed between the difference between the body, the soul, and the spirit. Okay. And one of the things that kind of came out in terms of the soul was that it's quite linked to the consciousness and memories and things like that. So often the soul and the mind are kind of quite interlinked to the point where, you know, even sometimes people kind of link it towards illnesses and things like that. Crushes, I think from what I can see, be quantified under the same premises as soul ties.
Yeah, I think it depends how deep it is. Like, there's a lot of a crush that is really cute.
No, crush.
And it's like
wake up, go to sleep.
You're obsessing, you're talking. And yeah, so I think that's why the Bible says that we should guard our heart with all diligence, because out of it flows the issues of life. And so if we allow people into our space and you're investing into that person and you haven't got the checks, you haven't got like green light from God, like, is this cool? Then that obviously is going to leave an imprint in your heart, and that is going to change how you think and how you act. And if that then does lead to a disappointing end, that is obviously going to be painful. That is obviously going to have an effect, either in even like a immediate couple of weeks, couple of months, or whatever, depending how deep the connection was. So I think all of us, especially as Christians, but all of us, we have a responsibility to guard our heart and to ensure that we don't have like what we investing in here, because that's what's going to come out. That's going to change our thoughts, our actions, the words that we say. And so I think it is really, really crucial that we guard our heart, like guard it, fight for it, because everything comes out of there. How we behave. You know, people have said, I'll never do that again, based on an interaction or an ex relationship with someone else. And you know, that could be a good thing, or sometimes it's like, oh, like almost a bit of you is like dive with that, because you now will not let anybody access that part of you ever again because of that pain. So I think we do have a responsibility to guard our hearts, because we don't know what impact that could have if we just let our hearts to anybody.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, which is why, again, accountability is so key. Having people you trust around you, like, just, oh, you're talking to someone, oh yeah, like, here he is, like, you know, just casual chat, like, what's he like? Having someone that you trust, not obviously everybody in your business, but wise counsel, just to be able to help you along that journey, so you're not by yourself making emotional decisions alone.
Yeah, do you ever find that we kind of create, by the same token, like a fantasy that it can kind of disappear, kind of at the same rate that it came? Whereas a lot of times I think when I've had like crushes or that kind of thing before, it might be a thing where I haven't even seen the person for a while or whatnot, and it kind of builds up to such an extent in your head, and then you kind of see them after like talking, like, you know, oh yeah, it's great to catch up the other day. By the time you're talking, you see them again, you're like, hey, wait, what was I into you again?
Yeah, I think we could definitely have that, where we build up expectations so much, and sometimes we've built up so much that we almost have to feel like, I have to follow this through. I have to follow this through and stuff. So I think we can definitely have the capacity to build things up so much in our minds and our imagination, our hopes, our wants, our desires, which is again why we have to be so honest with ourselves and honest with Christ. Like, Lord, I'm really lonely and I really want to be with someone. He might say, Yoy, that loneliness, take it to me. Because if you put that in someone else's hand, they may not be able to handle it, and they may crush you unknowingly. Or that wasn't their aim, but obviously they're not God. And I've heard this so many times, but we often squeeze people in God-shaped holes. And it's like, that wasn't their role. That was never their role. That was God's role, but and it's, you know, it's diligence. It takes effort to seek him, to wait on him, to read his word, to understand what that means, and to get that peace. Sometimes it comes like that, and other times it's a real, like, it's a study, it's a work, it's a meditation. And sometimes it's almost easier to, let's just find someone who can give me a hug and just talk to me. And that person may not be your safe place.
Yeah.
And it might just be like a wilderness season. I'm pouring out to God. I'm not hearing anything. You think you're not hearing anything. But it's walk by faith, you know? So it's just to keep going, keep pressing into him. Even when you feel like you don't get anything back, we know that his word is powerful. We know that there's power in his word. And so we keep going there, knowing that we're going to reap. We don't know when or what, but reap we will.
No, for sure. And interested, speaking about soul ties, we couldn't discuss this topic without mentioning sex before marriage at some point. So I think most Christians I speak to are of the view that it's an accepted biblical principle. I think kind of growing up, I was kind of scanning like, where does it say that? Where? To the point where it's one of the few times actually, well, where was it? Probably like 16, 17, something like that, where I'd actually not gone after service to the pastor, like, it pastor, like, where does it say this?
Where it at?
And then I guess maybe at that point even the answer I got wasn't necessarily satisfactory, because he was like, the whole Bible says that.
What?
That's not helpful. But I guess getting old, you come to realise from a biblical standpoint that sex is viewed as marriage and marriage is viewed as sex. It's not necessarily differentiated. So I guess from that perspective, there's greater emphasis than perhaps the world would place on it.
Yeah.
What's kind of your view from what you found?
Yeah, I'm all for no sex before marriage. I mean, as someone who has said, I can catch feelings quicker than a cold, I can't imagine now putting sex in the mix and then thinking I'm going to be clear-minded to make a decision on someone or whatever. And, you know, he says these things because he loves us, you know, and again, I refer to my book, but like Pastor Stephen Furtick says, like, fire is good, like sex is good, fire is good. But you put fire like in the middle of a room with petrol everywhere, you're going to have an explosion. And I think often we have the desire of sex in the wrong context. And then so it clouds the judgment. We're unable to make decisions to can't God. And he said it for a reason. Like, he put it in context of marriage. He created it. We know it's good. And so it's difficult, and in such a sexualized society we live in, like sex is like sells food, it sells cars, sells everything. Like every t-shirts, it sells everything. So it's everywhere. But we are called to be a peculiar people. And I think the person, like the next person that I'm with, like that has to be something that we both agree on. You know, like, yes, there will be temptations. Yes, of course it will be hard. And obviously if you like someone, you're attracted to someone, it's now going to be, oh, I don't feel anything. I'm an iron robot. Like, that's never going to be the case, especially when there are emotional feelings invested. But I think when our relationship with Christ deepens, and knowing that that act outside of marriage puts us in sin with God, if I really love that person, why would I want that person to be in that way with God? Like Corinthians says that love doesn't take pleasure in wrongdoing. So why would, if I love that person so much, why would my lust for them override them being in a place of wrongdoing? Why would I want to put that person in wrongdoing with God? If that person loves me so much, why would they want me to be put in a wrong place with Christ? And we often don't think about that because it's not romantic, right? It's not like sexy. It's not like, I just want to be with you, girl. I just want to show you all the fireworks and everything else. Like, it's not romantic. Like, no, you want me to be wrongdoing with God, okay? That's where we're going. So it's difficult. I'm not saying that it's easy. And, you know, I'm sure loads of people can testify to it. But it's, why did God say what he said? Why, what context did he put it in? So if he put it in that context, then, you know, as Christians, we should be also trying to have it in that context. Even though the fiery darts from the enemy are so hot, because, like I said, sex is everywhere. It's with everything. It's so difficult, but thank God for grace. Thank God for Jesus, who gives us the ability and gives us a way of an escape. And again, if you're with someone who does want to please God with you and does honour him, then at least you're fighting a battle together and not fighting that person like, no, get off me, and then you're fighting your own temptation. Like, someone's gonna fall, you know?
It's funny, I think the way that because we've separated it, which, you know, I think we can safely say as a human race, partially as a Christian group, as human, we separated sex from marriage. We don't see them as the same thing. But I think it is one of the things that exposes, when you were talking earlier about kind of the lies that we tell ourselves, I think often, you know, we'll say to ourselves, yeah, we're going to probably get married anyway. We're in a stable relationship, so why not have sex? And then it's kind of like, okay, get married then. And you're like, no, not really.
That's too much.
no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not sure.
But you can have a child with that person forever.
Yeah,
but you don't, like, So no, that's so true. That's for life. Oh, okay.
It's funny because the quote that did it for me, that gave me strength on some tumultuous times, was, I think that same pastor, to his credit, said at one point in the sermon, he's like, if you're not having sex with your husband or wife, whose husband or wife are you having sex with? It's like, at some point, you know, if you both plan to, at some point, get married, be in a relationship, that means that you're with someone else. And then it now comes under kind of guise of adultery almost. Is almost the right word? possibly need to think about this off camera. But yeah, you're kind of sleeping with somebody else's husband or wife.
Someone else's goodie, someone else's prize, someone else's good thing.
Baggage, the soul ties and everything we talked about. And I guess because I'm quite logical, like if someone's telling me not to do something, why?
Yeah.
Like I need that. Like just because God said it should be enough for me. But often like. But
I mean, we're naturally like our flesh nature, like it's like don't press that button. It's like oh my gosh.
What happens if you press the button?
Like what if I just half press it?
Yeah.
Like, and I press it all the way.
I remember staring at laptops. You know those F numbers. F1, F2, F3. I'd be like. What is that one do? What is that one? This is someone else's computer? Like, yeah, and I think by nature we're like that. But yeah, it's been dope. Was there anything that you wanted to say before you wrapped up?
I would just say that we have such an exposed society, right? Instagram, our social media, everything is out there. But I would just say that for singles, those in relationships, whatever, after relationships, divorce, married, whatever, that just continue having a secure people that you can be honest with. Like, I feel in the society we're living in, the generation we're living in, it's so easy just to put like a front, like, I'm such a strong Christian, I don't suffer from anything, I don't need any help. And just having a community, and I'm not saying expose your business to the world, but having a community that you can pray for me. Like, I know I said I'm not going back to this person, but it's hard out here.
You should set it up.
So I'm trying, but for me, I have my own. Like, I have my own circle because I don't want anyone to go on my page and be like, oh my gosh, she has it so together. Like,
yeah, I hear you.
No, like, but I have a connect group. I have a support network. I have people that I'm accountable to, and obviously, I have Christ. But
the mad thing I found though, just to link kind of to what you said earlier. In the same way that we talk about kind of people needing online stuff for dating, I found that in terms of for mentors, mentees, all that stuff, a lot of people are kind of solo dolo in the little community though. So perhaps some kind of online form or link where people can connect to you via the book or
I'm more than and I'm happy to put people connect. Like, I'm all about collaboration and making the table strong and bringing people in, but we can't do this walk by ourselves. We are made to be relational. We're made for relationships. And for whatever stage that you're at, single and loving it, single and waiting, about to be married, divorced, whatever, like, we all need, like, someone who's, like, holding us up in prayer. The Jonathan to our David and Aaron to Joshua. Like, we all need that person, people who are lifting us up. And so it just, it doesn't make it like, doesn't mean the burdens aren't going to be there, the temptations aren't going to come, but at least as a family, like we spoke about before, like our brother's keeper, our sister's keeper, we should be watching out for one another. I'm desperately trying to do it more for other people as well, not just that, this is what I need. But I think this season has been more easy to bear because I've been honest with a select group of people that I can say, this hurt, I'm weak. Like, I need you to pray for me. And even my deepest moments, like, out of the pain that some of this actually birthed the book, I literally remember, like, floods of tears. And, like, my friend would just be praying for me and speaking scripture over me when I couldn't even pray for myself because I was so broken with, like, one guy or whatever. And I don't think we share that enough. Like, we're just kind of, like, strong all by myself. I prayed 10 hours in tongues and oh my goodness, I saw angels and everything flying. But yeah, and I was also on the floor in floods of tears, snot, ugly face, crying, everything. Nice. And it was my girl that was speaking the word and praying for me when I couldn't even mutter amen. My spirit was saying it, but I could barely say it. So just to say that, get your select group of people, plug into the church. I feel like sometimes church is a bit of a stigma, like, whether church, and I know church is real, but plug in and find people who love you, who support you, who are going to love you like Christ and love you into Christ, because we all need help wherever we are in our lives, Yeah,
that's dope. So, you've been listening to Tumi, what they don't tell you about being single, yo. And you've been watching the Unity sessions on TLDTV, where gospel lives. Keep it locked till next time. See ya.